So, as I said, on this webinar, we will be dealing with water acidification, and therefore we will have to go through some concepts which are purely chemistry, right? I know these concepts might be a bit thick, but I really like them. I like chemistry, I have to admit it. So I will try to do my best to try to explain them in a nice way and not boring you, all right? Before we jump into the most practical part for us in regards to the animal production, right? So the scope of this talk is, as I just said, to understand these basic concepts about acidification, right? Purely chemistry, but we will need to know what the acids are, what the pH and the pK means to understand how the acids will be working, okay? And then the difference between them as well. Then we will go to the most applicable part, and we will be talking about the objective of acidifying. We will see that there are different objectives, and depending on that, we will be using different types of acids. And we will explain that later on, all right? Because we will see that we will have organic and inorganic acids. We will see their advantages and disadvantages, and finally, our advice depending on the objective that we are after with the use of acids. So, obviously, when doing a talk about acidification, we have to explain what the pH means, right? pH is just a measurement of acidity in a solution, right? It can go from 0 to 14, being 0 the most acidic and 14 the most alkaline, right? And it will be given by the concentration of hydrogen protons in the solution. So look at this image. This is a very simple way to solve an acid, right? And you have to know that as chemical molecules, they will try to find a balance, always trying to find a balance. Acids, in this case, will be dissociating in basically two. One is the hydrogen there with the plus, that means that it has got a positive electric charge, and its conjugate, which is the A, right? Meaning the A with the minus, which means that it has got a negative charge. So it is by measuring these hydrogen protons or its hydrated form called the hydronium ions, which are those ones there. You see the H3O plus, how we will get the pH of a solution, right? It is basically the negative logarithm in terms of mathematics of its concentration that will provide us with the pH. As we said, between 0 and 14. These hydronium ions are just the way that we will find the hydrogen protons when we have the acid in a water solution, right? Because they basically will join the water. So from this, and to make it simple, I want you to get with the idea that it will be these hydrogen protons, the ones giving acidity to the solutions, because we will be talking about them quite a few times today, okay? And they come from the dissociation of an acid. A base will be just the opposite, a substance where its dissociation will provide hydroxyl ions to the environment, which are those ones with the OH with the negative charge as well. And they will interact with the hydrogen protons. So this way we will go to a more alkaline environment. But this is just talking in general, right? Without going deep into it. So just stick to what I said before about these hydrogen protons to understand the whole thing. And just to mention as well that some substances can work in both ways. They can act as an acid or as a base depending on the environment where they are. They are called amphoteric, and they can be water, ammonia, peroxide, etc. But again, there's no point to get deeper into that just now. I want you to understand and get the idea of these hydrogen protons providing acidity to the environment, which are the result of the dissociation of the acids, right? So as we said, we will measure the acidity from 0 to 14, being 14 the most alkaline and 0 the most acidic or less alkaline, right? They are antagonic concepts. So the most acidic substance that we can find is the hydrochloric acid at a concentration of 1 molar, right? You see that its pH is just 0. But we have some other acid substances like lemon juice. You can see that it has a pH between 2.2, 2.4. Vinegar, milk, the blood, which is already slightly alkaline with a pH of 7.4, which is very stable. And the sodium hydroxide, which is the caustic soda, and it is the most alkaline substance, all right? So, yeah. So here we go with another concept, which is very important to understand how acids work. And we have seen that it might be a bit confusing, so I will try to make it simple and easy to understand for everyone, right? Again, we see on this image the formula of the acetic acid, okay? And we said before how acids will dissociate. In this case, we see that it results in the hydrogen proton that will be the one providing acidity plus the conjugate, which is this CH3 CCO with also a negative charge in it, all right? The concept is the K or the dissociation constant of an acid, and its measurement that we will see it as the pK of an acid. This constant will establish how the acid will work, all right? And this is very important to understand which acids are of our interest. So, talking in general terms, we can say that this pK is going to measure the strength of an acid, right? And that strength is the capacity of an acid to release those hydrogen protons faster, which, as you already know, are the ones acidifying the environment or the solution. Clear? So coming back to the image of the acetic acid, we see on the left the acid itself, which we will call the not dissociated form, and on the right we see the dissociated form of the acid, right, where the hydrogen protons have been released and will be acidifying the environment. The strength to release those hydrogen protons will be established by this pK or the dissociation constant, which is inherent and different in each single acid, right? Basically, this concept works the same way as the pH. I mean, the lower the pK is, the strongest the acid is as well, okay? Trying to explain it in a less theoretical manner, we can say that this pK is really the pH where the acid will be found in balance. And this means that 50% of its concentration will be found in the dissociated form and 50% will be found in the not dissociated form, okay? So that is, the pK is the pH where the acid is in this balance. A lower pK will mean that the acid will need a lower pH to find the stability or the balance. So when a substance is out of stability, it will try to reach it, and in the case of acids, they will be releasing these hydrogen protons to get to that balance. So that is how we can explain what this dissociation constant means and how it will establish the behavior of the acid, and it's easy to release these hydrogen protons, right? The easiest it is for the acid to release them, then the strongest the acid will be. And therefore its pK will be lower because it will also be on a low pH where that acid will find stability, right? Strong acids, they have a pK around 1. Organic acids or weak acids, they have a pK normally between 3 and 5. As some examples of acidification in food, we have quite a few, especially used to preserve the food, okay? You have the yogurt, you have the chucrut, which is this fermented cabbage eaten in some parts of Europe, especially Germany. I don't really like it. Vinegar, citrics, even some carbonate drinks like Coke, which has quite a low pH, right? You see there around 2.7. And in the animal field, we have the silage and the whey. Some examples of acidification which have been used for a long time already. So after finishing with these more theoretical concepts, let's talk about acidification itself, right? Acidification is just adding acids into an environment, okay? When we add them into the feed, normally it is for a preservation function or to improve digestibility, right? And in the water, it can be done to reduce the pH in those cases where we have waters with high pH, or to supplement the acidic environment inside the stomach, which provides support for the proteolysis, right? The intestinal action, and we will explain it also. Some acids can act as prebiotics. Something I want to make clear, adding acids into the water is not a biocidal treatment, okay? This is something to mention because some people get confused with it. They are totally different things. I will be repeating this a few more times during this talk today. When it is done in the feed, it is normally done by adding acids into the feed factory or a lactic fermentation of fodder or corn on silage, right? This will normally result on a pH below 5, and that will be good to preserve and improve digestibility, right? But our topic and our field is the water, so let's get back to it. We have finished already, which was the part that was more theoretical and that might be more boring, but we needed that to understand all those basic concepts, and you will see why now. So this slide is very important. You have to get the whole picture of it, okay? When we are adding acids into the water, we need to know clearly why we are doing it and what is our goal, okay? First, it can be just to correct the pH of the water, especially, as I said already, in those cases where we work with an alkaline water. We know that it is not okay, it's not fine to work with alkaline waters because we will have a reduced digestibility, and also some treatments like, for example, chlorine will be seriously affected by this pH. But also, we want to provide with a good environmental support to the digestion process, right? In all these cases, it will be just what we call like a physicochemical correction of the water. But secondly, if our objective is different and we are looking for an improved digestive health, balancing the microbiota, and even boosting the immune system, that will be a completely different thing from what I said, the physicochemical correction, and the strategy to follow will also be different. Again, at this point, I want to make sure that you are aware that this is not a sanitation treatment for the water, right? Acids at the doses of use, even if we acidify the water a lot, they will not be killing many bacteria, okay? Some of them will die, obviously, but not a lot. And therefore, it's not a water treatment because it will not help us to get a better microbiological quality in the water. So never use it to replace your water treatment. They are completely different things. Acids, they do have a bacteriostatic effect, and that is why they are used to preserve the feed, right? That means that the microbiological load remains the same as from the start. But it doesn't reduce it a lot. So if we use them in a highly contaminated water, we will stop the replication of some pathological bacteria, but we will not improve the water in terms of microbiological quality, okay? So in those cases where we have an alkaline water, we are looking to correct the excessive pH, right? As I said, it is not advisable at all to work with water with pH over 8. We need to reduce that pH. So we will need to get that physicochemical correction. How are we going to know that? We need to perform physicochemical tests in our water to get that information about it, not only just the pH, but other parameters that we have already explained in other webinars. But then we will know the pH and if it is high. So if we find it over 8 or not even 8, we might not want to work with a pH of 7. We will need to correct it because it will affect, for example, the digestibility, right? Also, if you are treating the water with chlorine, you have to know that you should always work with pH under 7, okay? The chlorine, the activity of the chlorine gets very affected when the pH goes over 7, and it loses its efficacy. So you should look for a pH of at least 6.8 or 6.9 in order to perform water sanitation with this chlorine, okay? You need to acidify the water, otherwise the chlorine treatment will be just useless. But it is also widely used to support the hydrochloric acid inside the stomach. This will improve the digestibility of the proteins in the digestive system. It will help some digestive enzymes to turn into their active form to perform a more efficient proteolysis, right? And the maximum activity will happen at pHs from 2 to 3.5. So the more acid the stomach environment is, the better the digestibility will be, and therefore there will be a better access to the nutrients. Besides, it has been proved that when we are using these protein-enriched diets, because we are pushing the animals to maximize their production, then if some of those proteins are not well digested, they will reach the cecum and they can be fermented literally there, causing some enteric problems, right? So it is not good just for the improved nutritional use of proteins, but also to avoid having this kind of issues. And then we have the case of wanting to acidify the intestine, right? And here we have to be clear, knowing that it is difficult to get to the intestine with acids. We can reach the first parts of it, but for sure we will not be able to reach the large intestine. We can acidify the first parts of the small intestine with certain acids, and that will encourage the saprophytic bacteria that will be able to grow under these acidic conditions in front of some pathogenic ones that will not be able to proliferate or to grow in a more acidic environment. For example, both E. coli and Salmonella are well compromised out of their comfort pH, which is between 5 and 8, okay? And for example, Lactobacillus has a bigger margin from 2 to 8, so it finds itself all right in a more acidic environment. Apart from that, acids work as stimulants for salivary glands, taste buds, and pancreatic secretions, right? And that will help the overall digestive process. So basically, acidifying the feed doesn't exclude acidifying the water, okay? If you add acids into the feed, but then when the feed is ingested, it gets mixed with an alkaline water, then we can have a buffer effect from the water, and we would be losing all the benefits of these acids added into the feed, okay? So just get the idea that doing one thing doesn't exclude the other one, but they are completely different things. And again, you can do both at the same time. It is very important to know the kind of water that we have, okay? But I will talk about it later on. This way we will know the strategy to follow, the doses that we will need, etc. As we saw before, the tolerance to the acids is different within all the microorganisms. Normally fungi and yeast are generally more tolerant. So normally when we add acids, we will be having an effect on the bacteria, within the exception of ascorbic acid, which has got a good antifungal activity, okay? And also from all the bacteria, some of them will get more affected, as E. coli and Salmonella, which are the pathogenic ones. Coming back to the same that we said before, acids are bacteriostatic, not bactericidal at the doses of use. We would have to decrease the pH massively to get a bactericidal effect. But working obviously on animal production, we will never go that low. But anyway, remember that they are bacteriostatic. They will reduce the bacterial proliferation. Don't get the idea that they will kill them. Then we have already seen what the pH is, also what the pK is, and we have understood its meaning. And if we have seen the acids can be used, added into the feed or into the water, which is of our interest. Okay. So now we have to see the kind of acids that we have, and we will explain them because their characteristic will determine our strategy. So we have two groups, basically, inorganic and organic acids. Within the inorganic, normally we will find phosphoric, nitric, sulfuric, and hydrochloric. That formula there is the orthophosphoric or phosphoric, which are the same. They are strong acids, and now I will explain some other characteristics. Within the organic acids, normally we will find formic, propionic, lactic, acetic, citric, butyric, lauric, malic, and benzoic, but there are plenty of them more, okay? But these are the ones that we will normally find in our field. They are weak acids, and we will explain them later on as well. So inorganic acids, then we have there again the orthophosphoric formula, which is the one that we will find the most in animal production when using inorganic acids. So they are strong acids because they have a great tendency to dissociate and release a hydrogen proton. And this is what I explained before when we talk about the dissociation constant, okay? What does that mean then? It means that the balance between the dissociated form and the not dissociated form will happen at a very low pH, and therefore it has that great tendency to release the hydrogen protons, which are the ones acidifying the environment, right? So the reality is that when we add these acids into the water, they are totally dissociated. We will not find them in the not dissociated form. And this determines its action in the organisms. So again, they have a low pK because they are strong acids, and they release the hydrogen protons very fast. They are more corrosive because they manage to get lower pH quick, and it is that low pH that can generate the corrosion issues, but not the acid itself. They are also descaling, a strong descaling agent for the same reason. They reduce the pH quickly, much faster than organic acids, and therefore they can remove calcium and magnesium from the surfaces, right? They dissolve it from any kind of surfaces, pipes, evaporative panels, etc. Then if we add inorganic acids, that solubilization will happen fast and will remove it, all right? They only get to the first parts of the digestive system, they release all the hydrogen at once, and they cannot reach the further parts of the system. They have a bacteriostatical effect outside of the cell. The acidic environment is just not very suitable for certain bacteria to proliferate, but that is the only effect against the bacteria, especially if we compare it with the organic acids that also have intracellular effect, but we will see that later on. They do not add energy, but this is also an advantage, okay? I mean, it can be a disadvantage because they have no nutritional value at all, like the organic acids would have, but this helps with biofilm, and this is very important. If you remember from our previous webinar about biofilm, one of the main predisposing factors was adding nutritional substances into the water, and organic acids fell in there, okay, because they provide energy. So it is very good that they don't, in order to avoid any biofilm problems. Also, they don't give flavor to the water, and we have to be a bit more careful with them when handling because they are a bit more abrasive than organic acids. All right. On the contrary, organic acids, they have a higher pK. That means that they are weaker. And that means that the release of hydrogen protons is weaker as well. I mean, slower, all right? There's gonna be a slow dissociation. So we will not find them fully dissociated inside of a solution. When we are adding an organic acid into a solution, the pH of the solution will not decrease that much and that fast because a part of the acid will remain not dissociated. It is only the dissociated part with his hydrogen proton out, the one that will provide with acidity to the solution. And that is why we call them weak acids, all right? They acidify less when they are added into a solution. They have at least a carboxylic group, which is that one there, and this hydrogen proton, that one there or that one there, is the one that will get dissociated. All right. They are less corrosive and worse descaling agents, just for the same reason as we said before, because it is more difficult for them to reduce the pH. So it will be harder for them to generate that environment, which is corrosive and helps removing the calcium and magnesium. All right. They have a bacteriostatic effect, or let's say a higher bacteriostatic effect. This is because the not dissociated form from the organic acids is capable to go through the bacterial membrane and release these hydrogen protons inside of the bacteria, acidifying then the inside of the bacteria within the cytoplasm. And this ability to reduce the intracellular pH is only happening with organic acids, all right? Not with the inorganic. But we will go through it later on with more detail. They supply with nutritional energy when they are added into the water. Not a massive thing, and we cannot take it as a nutritional strategy because the overall amount is not significant, but we need to know that they provide energy. As we have said, this is a double-edged sword, and it can be a disadvantage because they can provoke biofilm, right? They don't generate a pathogenic biofilm, so initially it will not be the pathogenic bacteria, the ones coming to create it. But remember that any biofilm, no matter what the bacteria are in the beginning, will get mature with the time, changing the surrounding environmental conditions, and it will be there where the pathogenic bacteria can colonize it as well. And this is why we can have problems of biofilm if we use organic acids and we do not do it properly. They give flavor to the water as well. some of them good flavor, some of them bad flavor. Lactic acid, for example, gives a better flavor than butyric, but just so you are aware of this. We see there that the pK are relatively high, right? Especially compared to inorganic acids, normally between 3 and 5, and that is why they are weak acids. Apart from all of this that I have explained, some acids have been proved to have some other effects, right? For example, formic acid or methanoic acid, which is the same. We know that it doesn't affect significantly the microbial density in the last parts of the small intestine and cecum, okay? But we know that it does reduce significantly E. coli, some pathogenic bacteria and Enterococcus without affecting the lactobacillus population. This is quite important, and these studies prove that it has got a prebiotic effect in favor of the lactobacillus or bifidobacterium against some pathogenic bacteria, all right? In the case of butyric acid, we know that it helps with the maturation of the enterocyte. It is also immune stimulant, and it helps to the correct development of the intestinal mucous membrane, apart from obviously the bacteriostatic effect itself that it has got. We saw already how the lactic acid was good, provides with good flavor as well. And for example, sorbic acid is a great antifungal. It is widely used in food, especially in bread and pastries to avoid fungal colonization. Oh, sorry. There we go. The important thing to know about the organic acids is that they generate beneficial environments for the growth of the saprophytic flora, all right, which are lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. And later on, by competitive exclusion, they will oust other bacteria, right? They will be able to acidify the gastrointestinal tract better. But why? Because we already said, because of the slower release of the hydrogen protons, right? They are weak acids, so this release will be slow, and thanks to this, it will happen through the whole gastrointestinal tract. On the contrary, inorganic acids would release all hydrogens at once before getting into the intestine. They increase the nutrients digestibility, but this characteristic is shared with inorganic acids as well. Even better with inorganic acids, because they will supplement better the acid environment inside of the stomach. But just so you know that both will have this effect. They also promote the correct state of the intestinal villi, and they acidify the crop content, which is very important in poultry production because it is normally quite difficult to get an acid environment in a natural way there, basically due to its location before the stomach, right? Then acidifying the crop in poultry has been a barrier for the generation of pathogens. Sometimes the feed stays there for a long time, so it is also good because it promotes the proliferation of lactobacillus, all right? Within the organic acids, we have short, medium, and long chain acids, but the ones which are interesting for us are the short and medium chain ones, okay? The long chain ones are not used as acidifiers because its capacity to do so is quite low. And normally we will find the short chain ones as formic, propionic, or lactic. Then here is the key to understand the bacteriostatic effect, right? Acids, they have the capacity to decrease the extracellular pH in the environment, right? As you already know, they release the hydrogen protons and then they acidify the environment. And they have this extracellular antimicrobial efficacy, both of them, organic and inorganic, right? But then only the organic ones are able to decrease the intracellular pH, I mean, inside of the bacteria. This capacity is specific from the not dissociated form. Basically, the dissociated form is highly polar and therefore is not able to go through the bacterial membrane, right? But the not dissociated form is able to do so, and then it will be releasing the hydrogen protons inside of the bacteria. So in here we can see on the left image how the organic acid is capable to get inside of the cell and then release the hydrogen inside of it. We see the organic acid represented as the carboxylic group together with the radical that goes through the membrane when we have the not dissociated form. Remember that it's the not dissociated form, the one that gets in there. That means the part which is still together with the hydrogen proton, all right? Once it is inside, then the dissociation happens. So the hydrogen is released and therefore the intracellular pH will decrease. We know that only cells which have a higher level of tolerance to this acidification will not be affected, right? But the ones without a big level of tolerance will find all its metabolisms and enzymatic systems well affected by it. Even the homeostasis will be affected and their survival basically gets harder, or at least their proliferation. One of the main effects caused is due by this internal acidification. So the bacteria will need to balance its pH back, and for that, it will need to take all those hydrogen protons outside of the cell. And to do so, it will need to spend a lot of energy, leaving the bacteria exhausted, right? Instead of using its energy to replicate, it is using the energy to balance the pH. But also the rest of the dissociated part will start to accumulate inside of the cell together with sodium and potassium, because it also affects the sodium-potassium pump. And this creates the osmotic pressure inside of the cell that causes cell turgor. That means that water is getting inside of the cell due to the osmotic pressure, and it can even break the cell. We have also there the orthophosphoric acid right there, which is the inorganic one, and you see that that one is not going through the wall, only the organic acids. This entrance of organic acids to the inside of the bacteria is happening in both pathogenic and saprophytic ones, okay? What happens here is that the lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are way more resistant to this acidification. So when the hydrogens are released inside of their cytoplasms, they find themselves comfortable with that, and they don't waste the energy taking all those hydrogens out again, you see? So this is the way they are adapted, and why some are disfavored and others are just fine with it, all right? So it is only, as I said, the not dissociated form that will go through the cell membrane, releasing those hydrogen protons inside of the bacteria, okay? And that is why only organic acids are capable of acting inside of the cells, because they are the ones from which we will find them the dissociated form, and not the not dissociated form. It affects the pH balance, the enzymatic system, nutrient transport, cell turgor, etc. A lot of things, as we said. So in the end, there is plenty of different mechanisms caused by the use of organic acids that will alter or damage the bacteria. Well, we have seen then the different types of acids, and I just want to quickly summarize again the characteristics and their difference so it is clear for everyone, right? And bear in mind that they have their advantages and their disadvantages, especially compared to each other. We cannot say one is better than the other one. We have to think that for specific cases, one is better or the other one for another thing. In regards to the organics, which we have talked a little bit more, they basically acidify water at higher doses. They are less cost effective if we are looking to just decrease the pH. However, inorganic acids acidify the water at lower doses, and therefore, if your only objective is just decreasing the pH, the inorganic ones will be your choice. Organic acids are weak acids with high pKs. Inorganic acids are strong acids with low pKs, right? This basically will set their behavior, and it will help the organic ones to reach the intestine, because there will be a not dissociated part that will reach further, okay? Inorganic ones will only reach the stomach, and they are good to promote proteolysis, but not to get, they will not get any intestinal effect because they will not reach it, basically. Organic ones will supply nutrition and energy, but this is a disadvantage, as we said, because they will generate biofilm. We will not have this problem, obviously, with inorganic acids because they will not generate biofilm. And this is very important, but they are not as bacteriostatic as the organic ones due to the intracellular effect. Organic ones give flavor to the water. Remember, sometimes good flavor, sometimes bad flavor. None of them is capable to remove biofilm, which already exists there. We have seen people saying that they clean the pipes with acids. That is just not right, especially if you are using organic acids. You see, now you know that they don't clean the pipes. On the contrary, they will generate biofilm, the organic ones. So acids do not clean pipes. They have a descaling power against inorganic material, but that's not the same. They remove calcium and magnesium deposits, both of them, but especially the inorganic ones. Some cases, some things that we hear, for example, that the lactic acid generates a lot of biofilm. It is not exactly like that. It doesn't provide with more nutrition than other organic acids. It is just simply the lactic acid a bit less soluble than other acids, and because of that, it can make the pipes dirtier, right? Because it's less soluble. And at the end, all that dirt will give more, will generate more biofilm, and we will have more biofilm related issues, especially with nutritional substances. Some negative effects in the water consumption. We know that tartaric acid decreases the consumption. Basically, animals don't like it. Some other negative effects, we already know that it can generate problems inside of the pipes. Then do not add the organic acids into the deposits, right? Add the organic acids the nearest you can to the animals to generate the less biofilm possible, and that will help as well to the not dissociated form to reach further in the intestine, right? Also, some organic acids gets combined with a lot of copper in order to reduce the risk of biofilm. But that copper, when is excessive, it will decrease the water consumption and the feed consumptions just at the beginning, because the animals don't like it. Then they get used to it, so everything should be coming back to normal. But just you need to be aware of that. Right. So let's be clear here. Our advice will be related to your objective, and I want you to be clear on this, right? We saw at the beginning that we could have two different objectives. One was a physicochemical correction of the water, and another one was improving the intestinal health. All right. For the physicochemical correction of the water, my advice is always working with inorganic acids. Phosphoric will be the best cost-effective option. Not a high dose needed. It doesn't generate biofilm, and it will require a continuous use, okay? If you want to correct the physicochemical parameters from your water, then you will always need to, right? For those cases, we will need to do a pH curve, and I will explain. We will go through that in a minute. If you want to improve, if your objective is different, and on the contrary, you want to improve the intestinal health of the animals, as we have seen that is only the not dissociated form that can get inside of the bacteria, right? So my advice for this case is working with organic acids, always together with a biocidal treatment, which is going to be capable to remove the biofilm. And my advice is working with peroxides like AquaSix Plus, right? In this case, it will be more important the dose provided than the final pH. So we will not be looking that much for a final pH here or how much we have decreased the pH. It is important, but in here, the main thing is the combination of different acids and the dose that we are providing to get that intestinal effect. We can work in a continuous way, or we can work by pulses. There we go. But anyway, coming back to the inorganic acids, for the physicochemical correction of the water, we have if we have a water with a high pH or over 7, and we don't want to work with that pH because we already know that it will affect the digestibility and other things, right? Then it is very important to carry out the pH curve for that water, right? And this will be influenced by the amount of salts, especially calcium carbonates, but many other salts inside of the water. When we do this pH curve, this basically shows how that pH goes down in a solution as long as we keep on adding acids, right? So on that chart there, we see below on here the amount of acid added every 1,000 liters of water, and on this vertical we see the pH. All right, we are starting at a pH of approximately 7.5, and as we keep on adding 50 milliliters of acid, we see how the pH goes down. As you can see, it's not a straight line, it's more like a curve. Probably we were doing it over distilled water. In that case, we will get a straight line. But when we are working with real waters from farms, it is normally far from a straight line, you see. We call it a curve anyway. And by doing this, we will be able to give proper advice on the dose. See there that to go from approximately 5.4 or 5.3 to approx 3.2 there, we have added 100 milliliters of acid, right? We decrease the pH in 2 points. However, to decrease the pH just 1 point from 6.5 approximately there, to 5.3, which is around there. We needed at least 200 milliliters of acid. Then you know that the decrease is not always proportional to the dose, all right? There are different substances inside of the water that can work as a buffer with the acid. So in the real case, we will always find a curve kind of similar to that one. In some cases, we see firstly a big decrease, then it stops for a while before going down again, right? And why is this so important to do? Because so many times we just set a pH to achieve without knowing the curve. And this way we don't know which one is the best cost-effective option of adding acids into that water, right? So this way we know. And maybe we wanted to get a pH of 5, but then we see that we only need a little bit of acid to get to 5.5. But then to go from 5.5 to 5, we might need to add 3 more times of acid, right? So maybe in that case, we will tell you to stay in 5.5, sorry, because it is much more better in cost-effective terms, and that 5.5 might be enough for you. So see how important it is doing these pH curves, right? And my advice, especially for those ones who are getting water from wells, is to do one when the level of the well is high and another one when it is low, because that will vary the salt concentrations in the water, okay? This way we will see how our water works in both cases, and probably we will not need to do it ever again because that normally remains quite stable, right? So how we are going to do it? Over 10 liters of water with a small syringe, we will be adding 0.5 milliliters of acid, and every 0.5 milliliters, we will do a measurement of the pH. That will be like adding 50 milliliters every 1,000 liters of water, which are normally the references that we have when dosing into the water. Always make sure that the measures are taken with a calibrated pH meter, right? And again, quite simple, just do it twice if the level inside of the well changes a lot, and that way we will know which is the best cost-effective dose for your specific case. And remember that only if we are after physical-chemical correction because we have a high pH or because we want chlorine to work better. Remember that if you use chlorine, your pH will need to go below 7 to carry out its activity. In the case of using organic acids, as I already said, it is not that important how the pH decreases. It is not the main objective there. What it is important is the combination of acids. When we are combining different organic acids, obviously each one is going to act different, right? Because each one has got different pKs. This, the combination of different pKs within the same product is going to achieve having this hydrogen release happening slowly, right? And more prolonged in time. And that is better for us because with this, we will get to the further parts of the digestive tract. Imagine that we perform a pH curve with organic acids. We would have to wait much longer because that release is much slower than with inorganic acids, all right? Our objective then, as I said, is not as much to decrease the pH. It is adding the acids into the water the nearest possible to the animal so it works on the intestinal level, acidifying the inside of the bacteria in order to promote the saprophytic bacteria in front of the pathogenic ones. But remember, in these cases, always the nearest as we can to the drinking point, so the not dissociated part of the acid will travel further into the digestive system, but also to avoid biofilm problems. Don't use these kind of acids, for example, into the deposits to decrease pH and allow chlorine to work. Just remember that. So when can we use it? In pigs production, for example, organic acids, we work continuously with piglets because they normally have many diarrhea-related problems, and it helps a lot. Also, at the beginning of fattening or when stressful situations might occur, like a feed change, well, in those cases, at least do it for a week. We even recommend using for a couple of weeks when the animals start with the fattening, right? In sows with urogenital infections or kidney oxalate stones, using acids is extremely good for these cases, but it is just temporary, like a medical treatment, right? In poultry, we really like to work with organic acids with pulses, right? It improves the conversion rates, malabsorption syndrome, dysbiosis, etc. Be careful in here with laying hens with them. It's not good to acidify a lot because it could cause some stress related to the bone decalcifying. All right. They already decalcified their bones in a natural way to help to form the eggshell. And if somehow with the use of acids, we make the guts very acidic, that will make them decalcify to maintain the blood pH at its normal level. So just remember that with laying hens is not that necessary to acidify that much the water or the inside of the intestine. Our advice will be working with ASICS Forte or ASICS Plus. And as I said a few times already, depending on which one is going to be your objective, right? ASICS Forte is our product based on inorganic acids, okay? Although there is something with it that I will explain in a minute. And ASICS Plus is our product with organic acids. So ASICS Forte, the inorganic, it is based on 70% phosphoric acid plus, and this is what I mentioned, something else, 10% of formic acid, which, as you already know, is an organic acid. In regards to those, right, in some cases with just 50 milliliters every 1,000 liters of water will be enough. But we normally work from 70 to up to 100 milliliters of acid every 1,000 liters of water. As you can see, quite low doses. In a standard water, we will be able to decrease the pH in 2 points with the dose of 100 milliliters. But again, highly advised to perform the pH curve to know properly our water, all right? It is very cost effective at low doses because we will be able to decrease quickly the pH, all right? So this is the choice, sorry, for those cases where you want to do a physicochemical correction of the water if we have high pH, or to improve proteolysis, or just to supplement the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, right? We consider the product as an inorganic acid product. Also, as you see, it has got a little bit of formic acid, right? This formic acid will have that intestinal effect, but it will be kind of limited because we will be working at low doses, right? So we will not see a huge impact on the intestinal health, but we will have a certain level of benefit. Most of it will find itself in the not dissociated form because it goes together with a strong acid. So even this small amount of organic acid will be able to reach the intestine. But again, if you are looking to improve the intestinal health of your animals, then the results will be much better with Aqua 6 Plus, which is based in organic acids. So A6 plus is a combination of organic acids, formic, propionic, and lactic with their conjugate salts, right? The ammonium formiate and the ammonium propionate, right? The salts, they act as acids as well, and they have different pKs than the acids where they are coming from. So as a result, we will have a product with quite a different substances with different pKs, okay? Due to these different pKs, we will have a slow and extended release of hydrogen protons through their way into the digestive system, right? Because every single acid or salt will act differently. And this is what I said before, we will have a long and slow release of the hydrogen protons. The product also contains the enterocyclic nucleus, which comes in at 2.5%. And it is based on essential oils, citroflavonoids, and tannins, okay? They have different effects, all related to the intestinal health, like astringent, antioxidants, and natural biocide. Then in this case, when working with A6 plus, which is the one with organic acids, we will be working with doses from 250 to 400 milliliters every 1,000 liters of water, okay? Every 100 milliliters of product, we approximately will be decreasing a point of pH, more or less. But remember that in this case, this is not our objective when we are using this product. In here, we are looking for a slow and long release of hydrogen protons that will provide us with the intestinal benefit. Due to the different pKs, it is a very safe product. You can even put your finger in it, like in the picture, for a minute, and nothing will happen. Obviously, we would not be able to do so with the inorganic acid, right? That will provoke us a burning, the inorganic one. So just get the idea that this is a very safe product, and even if there was some dosing mistake and we were giving up to 3 liters of product every 1,000 liters of water, which is 10 more times than the doses that we are recommending, that wouldn't cause any harm, all right? So just, you have to know that it's a very safe product. It's well indicated for dysbiosis, improved intestinal health, especially E. coli and Salmonella. Some studies show how effective it is against Salmonella in poultry, especially due to the good action that it has got inside of the crop, right? Remember, we said before that it was quite difficult to get an acid environment inside of the crop. So we can do it and we can achieve very good results in our strategy to control Salmonella. So what about the dosing? How can we do it? How we can do? So the only difference between the two products is going to be basically the point where we are going to apply them, all right? We have A6 Forte, inorganic. We can add it pretty much anywhere in the water treatment plant, deposits, pipes, wherever. And then we have A6 Plus, which is the organic one, right? I already said a few times, the nearest possible to the animals to enhance the not dissociated form from the acids, reaching the furthest possible, but also to avoid the generation of biofilm, right? And also organic acids, use them associated with a biocidal treatment, which is capable to remove the biofilm like Aqua-6 or peroxides. The product itself, it has got copper added, but there will always generate a bit of biofilm, right? So use them together, A6 Plus and Aqua-6 Plus. They are synergetic, and Aqua-6 Plus works really well with acids. And once we know where to add them, we can use these dosing pumps. Some of you might already know them. Because they are the same as we use with Aqua-6, or you can use any other dosing system that you have to give medicines, right? So just to be clear here, once again, none of the ASICS products are bactericidal, right? They are not a biocidal treatment, so we cannot use them as a water sanitation treatment. They will not improve the microbiological quality of the water. For that purpose, we have Aqua6 Plus, which, as you know, is based on hydrogen peroxide, silver, peroxy acids, and has got the enteric nucleus as well. I already said, but Aqua6 Plus works really well with both ASICS products. They are synergetic, and it will boost the intestinal benefits because Aqua6 Plus has also got that effect, right? But the choice of acid will be done in regards of the objective that we are looking for, all right? And this is again what I just said. Depending on your objective, you will use one or another. None of them is better or worse. Everyone has a different purpose. ASICS Plus will provide well and improve intestinal health. ASICS Forte will be the best cost-effective option to correct the pH of the water. Very important to know and to understand that and just get the overall idea of the different acids, right? And this was all by me today. Once again, I hope you enjoyed it and that you have all these concepts, which could be a bit confusing, clear in your mind right now. So thank you very much.